And so if I'm able to say the rejection pushes me into more possibility, then I'm thankful for the no. Thank you for saying no to me. Now I just know that that wasn't my job.
Hey performer, welcome to the Creatively Performing Arts podcast. Are you ready to get back to your creative passion for singing, acting, and dancing again? Hi, I'm Estelle, beginner voice coach, performer, and Christian creative, and I know how it feels to want to use your God-given gifts, but to stay stuck in fear. The solution is to just get started. So, in this podcast, you'll find beginner singing and performing tips, inspiring interviews with artists, and help to push past your fear so you can finally start performing again. So pause your Broadway playlist and take a vocal rest, because the show is starting and you're the star of it. Let's begin. Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast. What's going on, performers? What's going on, creatives? I have an episode for you. I'm so excited for you to hear today's episode. It's an interview with an incredible artist who I found on Instagram and connected with and have followed her for a while and just love what she does. She is an actress. She is a performer, has been on was in The Color Purple on Broadway, The Color Purple revival, and she is currently in the national tour of Hadestown. And she is also a voice teacher. She has her master's in vocal performance from NYU and has a voice studio as well. And she shares about her faith. She shares about her relationship with God so openly and so confidently as an artist and as a person, which is just so encouraging to me to just hear how honest and real she is about her relationship with God, as well as the ups and downs of being an artist. And she is just so inspiring. She will truly help you to see what's possible, for you as an aspiring singer, especially, and in any area of the performing arts. So listen, and this story is going to inspire you. You're going to love her. She is such a bright spot, and I can't wait for you to hear our conversation. Without further ado, the incredible Nyla Watson. All right, guys, I'm so excited to have with me here Nyla Watson. Nyla, how are you doing today? How's it going?
Hi, Estelle. I'm doing well. Before we got on the podcast, I was saying that, I woke up, I got my coffee together, I got my makeup on. Like, I'm feeling excited to be here, and grateful to be here. Thank you for having me, for asking me to do this. It was like perfect timing because we are starting shows in Schenectady, New York tonight. And so I kind of have my day to myself, so I was really excited to hop on here with you this morning.
Wow. Wait, so this is like opening night.
Yes. In
Oh my goodness.
In
the city.
Okay. Yes.
But still, oh my gosh. Wow. I was already so honored that you would say yes, but then on top of that it's like your opening night and everything. Thank you so much. This is such a gift to have you here. So thank you.
Yes, the beauty of tour is that we get to have an opening night once a week. So
that's true. That's true. You kind of like, not that you start over, but it's like
it's
fresh. It's fresh.
It's definitely a do-over. It's a fresh start every week. What a blessing that is to be able to say like, oh, I get to try it again next week, Yeah,
I love that. And I think someone is mowing the grass outside. I hope you can't hear that, but that's okay. We move. I was telling you, I found you on Instagram like a while ago because I was looking for more theater artists to follow, to connect with, to inspire me in my feed on Instagram, and specifically Black women in theater, and like seeing you, a woman of faith who's so like confident. You guys can't see her right now, but she's just like, she's gorgeous. You'll see her picture if you see her the promo like graphic on Instagram, but she has this beautiful smile, and you're just so yourself. And so I just love, like, as soon as I saw you and like started seeing like your posts and everything, I was like, oh yeah, she's real. Like, this is who she is who she is. And I can just tell by after talking to you for a little bit that you definitely are who you present yourself to be, which is really important and really inspiring to me. So yeah, that's how we kind of connected.
Wow. I could cry. I'm like fighting tears, my word for, so I'm a little woo-woo. Just gonna say that, you know what I'm saying? So you'll hear me talk about like hearing the voice of the Lord and things like that. So my church, Elevation Church, based in Charlotte, North Carolina, actually.
Okay.
We pick a word for the year, so my
Hmm.
pastor is very into like picking your word for the year, being attached to a word of the year. Even his wife this year said pick a song for the year. So things like that. So my word for 2023 is confidence. I
Ah,
actually have two words for this year. It's confidence and promise or promises. And what's crazy about that is I really struggle like with being my authentic self and like reminding myself that the world will make room for that. You know, I get very distracted when it comes to being all of myself all the time because I'm just so nervous that that will eject me from social circles and things like that. And it's like being a woman of faith in this industry is a little taboo. There are so many women of faith in this industry, don't get me wrong, but screaming the name of Jesus oftentimes is a little taboo sometimes in this industry, in entertainment in general. And so it is beautiful to hear that that is what attracted you to me, though I know that the light of Jesus is attractive. It's not me that you're attracted to, it's really him that you're attracted to through me. But I'm honored to always be reminded of that, and to be like, no, 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 like it's attractive.
yeah,
And
for
so I'm
sure.
learning in 2023 to walk in the confidence of that, because sometimes I get uh fear is real, you
Yeah,
know, and scary and will lie to you.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I'm so glad that you're doing that. I feel like you have been doing that, but that's just from the outside looking in, your story. And I'm so glad that you're really walking in that this year. So I'm excited to see what that looks like for you. And for people who don't know you, let's get into your story a little bit and kind of
Yeah.
start a little bit at the beginning, the very
Yeah.
best place to start. Oh my gosh, I can't wait to make all these theater references with you because I get to make all these musical references with you because you're a Broadway
Musical
theater
theater person,
star.
right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you're talking about confidence, you're talking about being on tour right
Sure.
now, and people might not know, how you even got into acting, how you got into the theater industry, being a Christ follower in the theater industry.
Mhm.
How has that kind of developed for you? You can give like the long like a quick overview of like
Yeah.
how you decided to become an actor, why
Mhm.
do you want to be a storyteller, and how has that kind of played out for you so far?
So I started performing in high school, and randomly it's a Catholic high school. So again, faith and theater have always kind of coexisted for me. The guy who, shout out to Brian Senchak, who's one of my mentors still now, um, he was also the religion teacher. Like the drama teacher was also the religion teacher. So I never knew that these things could not coexist, I guess, until I got to the professional level. And then you're like, wait a minute, is this weird? But growing up, they always coexisted. They coexisted in the person who introduced me to this art form, right? Being the drama teacher, being the speech and debate coach, and also being the religion teacher. So I never really knew that they couldn't coexist, because the person who introduced me to the art form was literally the embodiment of them coexisting in a human being. Um, so I did my very first show in high school. He heard me singing in the hallway and, basically recruited me into starting my journey with musical theater. My very first show was when I was 13 years old. I did Little Shop of Horrors. I was one of the urchins. And it was like it found me. Musical theater found me. And and I knew then that I wanted to do it professionally. The guy who played Seymour went to my alma mater, went to Baldwin-Wallace University. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna do musical theater. I'm gonna graduate from Baldwin-Wallace. Like it kind of laid itself out in seed form at the very beginning. But before that, the very first time that I think that I knew that I could sing and that I could perform in front of people and it would be a thing was when I was about 3 or 4. And I ran from it. It wasn't something that I think being myself doing it in front of people scared the crap out of me, because I recognized that my voice was God given. And so allowing him to move through me in that way evoked fear, right? Because I didn't know what was happening, I guess, at 3 or 4 years old, that like I am creating space for God to move through me through this talent that he has given me. And all of that as a 4 year old, right, is like overwhelming. Like I recognized that this was happening and just kind of ran from it. Um, and so I think that my journey has been the unfolding of allowance, you know, of being like, oh, I have these gifts that God has given me, and I'm going to allow him to use them through me as I move out of the way for more of him through me. And that has still evokes a lot of fear and a lot of timidity, but I think that in the maturing of my faith, I move out of the way a little quicker. And I would say a little quick. Like I still run from it, you know, in some capacities a lot of times, but I do move out of the way a little quicker than I did before.
That's beautiful. I love that part of allowance, allowing God to move through you. I have talked before on this show about like, you know, how do you start to use your gifts? How do you start to like, you know, take small steps of action of, you know, the person listening who's like, I grew up in the choir, like singing in choir at school or church or whatever, you know, but, you know, now I'm like in my 30s, I'm in my 20s, and it's like, it's not practical, blah, 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 but like, I kind of want to, but I don't even know where to start. And like, I try to encourage, like, start with surrender, like, start with just like, just like allow, kind of like what you're saying, like talking to God, getting in a quiet space, writing down, like, what is it that I love? Or like, just like surrendering that, not having like such high expectations for like, well, if I'm going to be singing, then I have to be singing in Carnegie Hall tomorrow. And if I can't be on that level, then there's no point in even starting.
Exactly.
It's like, no, just like surrender to the journey, to let it be what it's going to be. And then, you know, take one small step of action, whether it's taking a voice lesson or a dance class, or like going to, you know, this, you know, audition or whatever, local audition in your community theater. Like it could be anything. It doesn't have to be, not everyone listening wants it as a career. They just want to engage in the arts in some way. And so just starting. And I like what you said about allowing it to just be. Like you have
a gift. That sometimes I'm sorry to cut you off.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
I feel like surrender can sometimes be such a big word. But I love the idea that you kind of introduced of like, what is the smallest way that you could surrender today? The smallest way, you know? And I think that giving yourself those small moments of surrender kind of builds the muscle of surrender to make bigger surrenders later. You know what I mean? And so Absolutely. I think like, even if it's like you said, sitting quietly and like writing down what you hear can be an act of just the smallest surrender possible in this moment. For me, I'm currently writing a book, and I'm running from it. I've been working on this book for 6 years, and God is like, finish. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm hearing that very loudly, like finish this book so we can move on to the next level. You know, there is so much more that he wants to give his people through me, and I'm halting the process because of fear. But it's like, what is the small, you know, my life coach says, like, let's start small. Like, what is the smallest way that you can surrender? And for me, it's just reading what I have so far. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't write nothing. Just take inventory of what you have so far. Can you commit to do that this week? You know what I mean? Like, can you just sit with your book and read it again? And so I think that just the small, like, the literally the tiniest increment of surrender. What does that look like for you? And being able to do that. And for me, you know, even then it was like, okay, yes, I'm going to audition for the high school musical. That is not a Broadway audition. That is not a college audition. You know what I mean? Like that is, do I like this? And how can I see if I like this enough to pursue it on another level? So I really like that. Like the tiniest increment of surrender. What does that look like? Maybe it's 20 minutes pushing play on the music theater playlist on Spotify. Like no stakes to you, you know?
Yeah.
What does that look like? And so, yeah, that was motivating for me even today. So thank you for that. But I do encourage
Oh,
the person listening, like, really think about it. Like, what is the tiniest, even for me with like putting makeup on today, like I was like, I don't want to do this makeup. I don't. I'm so tired. But it's
yeah.
like, can you set a 5-minute timer and just see what happens after 5 minutes? And then after the first 5 minutes, I was like, I want to finish this face. You know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
what does the smallest,
Yeah.
the tiniest version of surrender look like in this moment and committing to that? That's beautiful. I like that a lot.
And you look gorgeous.
Ah,
So
thank you. Thank you.
but yeah, it's so true. And you brought up auditions, which I think is going to be really interesting for anyone listening, because it is like that. It can start so small, just like one
Yeah.
small audition, one
Mhm.
like local, like something that feels a little bit comfortable, but still pushing you out of your comfort zone to get you into theater. So for anyone listening who's like, I'm curious about acting, I'm curious about performing. So when you, after you first like had that moment of like, oh, like being in Little Shop of Horrors, and from there doing more shows and stuff throughout high school and into college. Did you study musical theater in college, correct?
I did. So I went
Or
to Baldwin
full
Wallace
voice?
University,
Okay.
and I got a bachelor's of music in musical theater. And of course, because it was in the conservatory, there was like an emphasis in applied voice, but the
Right.
degree was a music theater degree. Hmm.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And
And
then
then
from
also,
there,
my
yeah.
master's is in music theater voice as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. From NYU. So from there, like going through like school and everything, were
Mhm.
you still auditioning outside of school? And then like after school, did you just jump into the audition scene in New York, and like that's how you got started? And how did you how did you get started with auditioning as a professional, and
That's a
then
profession. Okay.
seeing those kind of opportunities start blossoming for you? And
Sure.
what were those first
So I
steps?
went to Baldwin Wallace University, and Baldwin Wallace has what they call a music theater showcase in New York City. And so for me, it was so necessary to have a school that had a showcase in New York because I was from the hood in Cleveland. So I really did not know anything about like anything. You know what I mean? So I needed the catapult of the assistance in moving to New York and having an agent and having, all of that was like helpful in having ties to New York City before I kind of got there. And then also, Baldwin Wallace also did master classes once a month every Saturday where they would bring casting directors and agents from New York to Berea, Ohio. So these people had also had a relationship with me from sophomore year when I started singing in front of them in Berea. So by the time I got to New York and did a showcase, they kind of knew if they wanted to sign me or not based on the rapport that I had built with them when they came to Baldwin Wallace, once a year, every year for 3 years when they heard me sing.
So good. I wrote down building relationships. I think that's so important in like for anyone wanting to be more creative, wanting to explore your creative gifts. You're not doing this on your own. You don't have to do this on your own. And really it's better to make those connections, learn from other people,
Mhm.
and you never know how you can support each other in the future, how you can collaborate in the future in different ways. And so I love that you had those moments kind of like before you were even in New York, you were building
Yes,
those
it
relationships.
was
That's
built
so
into
key.
the educational
Yeah.
system that was laid out for me beforehand. And I also
Yeah.
feel like I also feel like, you know, I don't want people to get discouraged because they don't have that, right?
Yeah.
So the educational aspect of it was beneficial for me, but it's not the only way to build those relationships in New York. There are so many programs outside of institutions like the Growing Studio, that have those like 6 weeks to unto a showcase type situations
Okay.
where you can, like, there are programs in New York that have like, okay, we're gonna do even summer programs at different institutions. I know NYU has one. I know like Boston, Berkeley has one. I know Baldwin Wallace has one where you can go and work with these musical theater professionals in the summertime, and then it will build to, you know, a concert or a showcase where they have invited different people in New York to work with you during those 6 weeks and to come and see you in a showcase setting at the end. So I would look into, you know, the Growing Studio, One Studio, different things like that that are in New York that kind of have that transitional model to help you build those relationships. There's another organization called the Broadway Dreams Foundation that actually does local showcases. So yeah, there are so many different ways to build those relationships. So even if you are older or out of those college years, I wouldn't disqualify yourself from programming like that, because it's also available outside of the educational setting.
I love that. Thank you for saying that. Those are great resources. So I'll like try to link them below so that anyone who's like looking for anything like that, they can get that, because that's such a good idea. So after you talked about like not wanting people to get discouraged, and I think that's so much of when it comes to the performing arts, there is so much around it of like discouragement, rejection, negativity. It's impossible. You can't do this as a career. You can't pursue this, even if you want it. Maybe you don't even want to do this as a career if you're listening, but like you can't book a job, you can't book a role, like you've never done this before. All this discouragement comes like flooding into our minds when we think about, what if I started like dancing? Could I take a dance class? Could I like there are like so many things. Oh, I didn't start early enough. Like so much discouragement.
Come on.
And so many thoughts of rejection. Like that is what we hear all the time when it comes to the arts. And when I see you have shared openly on your Instagram about like ups and downs of being an artist and stuff. But there's like still this glow about you. There's still this like hope and this light of like, so much is possible, and obviously so much is possible. I mean, look at you're currently on tour in Hadestown, which I'm in love with that show, by the way. We'll get into that in a second, but like so much is possible, especially, you know, and being a Black woman in this industry, like that is not easy at all. And so you're a stand for like possibility and for what could be, and not of like, you're not a stand for like only discouragement and rejection, which I really love. So thinking back to like, especially like when you first started auditioning, like the rejections that you might have faced before you got that role that felt like you were like, okay, like I finally like gotten like a bite on the hook. Like I've gotten to this place where I know that I could do this as a career. How did you keep going? Like, how did you keep maintain that hope and not let discouragement set in so that you could get to that place of being like, I've gotten this role and this is not what validates me, but it shows me that this is possible. You know, how did you keep going in that in the midst of that rejection and discouragement you might have faced?
Sure. I think, well, I know that I needed to separate rejection from discouragement, right? Because even as you were saying those things, what happens in our brains is we connect rejection, discouragement, negativity. Those are not synonymous.
Yes.
Rejection is not discouragement. I think rejection is the gateway to possibility. And I think that when we know that, then we reframe rejection, because being discouraged to do something or being, I think we look for the easy way out, right? Like we're looking, as humans, we look for ease, you know? And it takes me back, you know, I've been really on Genesis 1, you know, Genesis 2, like the creation story of the beginning, like what is perfection? And I'm reading this book right now called Hiding from Love by John Townsend. And he talks about like, we think that the easy way out, like we you know, like let's say, you know, we hear a no, right? Or we sin, or we come into contact with our nakedness, our vulnerability. And we feel like the easy way out is to then cover it up or hide it or create
shame,
instead of stepping even further into the nakedness and saying, Lord, I know that I'm naked. I made a mistake. Help me. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like we have to separate the rejection or the no or the wrong, right, from the discouragement or the negativity. Those are not the same. And so if I'm able to say the rejection pushes me into more possibility, then I'm thankful for the no. thank you for saying no to me. Now I just know that that wasn't my job.
I like that a
Versus
lot.
versus moving in the scarcity mind, because I think we just have a low view of God, and we have a low view of the parameters around which he can bless us. Right? And so it's like, if I'm clinging to this one opportunity and I feel like that is the only way that God can bless me, then when I am rejected by that opportunity, I am discouraged. Instead of, my God owns the cattle on 1,000 hills. So if you are saying no to me, that means that I just need to search for where he gonna bless me. You know what I'm saying? And so if we allow the
Yes.
rejection to push us into possibility instead of discouraging us, then we are able to lean into, God, how you gonna do this? Because I know if it ain't this, there is something that you do have for me. The yes is coming. It's just not this one. But because I am so stuck on now or nothing, which is not who he is, then I am immediately discouraged when the no that I thought, this is how I thought that he was going to bless me. So then that must be the only way. No. You know what I mean? Like, even I think
Yeah.
about my journey with Hadestown. You know, I'm on tour with Hadestown now. I auditioned for Hadestown. I literally went in the room 13 times. I had 5 rounds of auditions over 2.5 years.
Oh my
And it had
goodness.
to be now.
Yeah.
It couldn't be those other times. And did I cry my tears? Absolutely. Was I confused? For sure. Right? But I also recognized that, let me put this stuff on tape again. Let me come on. I mean, I had to talk myself into that thing. I'm sick of these people asking me for these same 3, you know what I mean? Like, I'm telling you, I was there. I was there. I was
Yeah.
like, they know what I can do. Why do they keep putting me through this? You know what I mean? Like, you do
Right.
have those thoughts. I'm not disqualifying those thoughts. But what I am saying is the act of faith is the doing it anyway. The act of faith is saying, if they keep asking me for these auditions, then maybe they're just waiting to find a place to put me. Maybe that's what's happening. Instead of, they're playing with me, they're toying with me. That is what our mind does, right? Like, I don't understand why they're doing this to me. We make it about our small feelings and not the reality of, they keep coming back. Why they keep coming back? Why they keep asking for me? What do they know about me that I don't know about me? Which is, they're waiting for an opening for me that is just for me. I am the very first Fate 2 Persephone understudy. The very first one. There is one on Broadway now, right? But before me, there was no Fate 2 Persephone There had to be a lane that looked like just for Nyla. And if I would have stopped when my feelings or my discouragement kicked in, I would have missed the just mine time that allowed me to not do it on Broadway, to get my master's degree when I wanted to, when I was in grad school. Because my very first audition was March of 2020. I was still in school, right? So I could have had no job and no degree, because also the pandemic happened in March of 2020.
True. Oh my
You see what I'm
goodness.
saying?
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
like, sure, you could have left school and then the shutdown would have happened. That could have been an option for you. And the very first year of the tour, I didn't book, but I also made my Broadway debut
In the color purple.
in Waitress.
Or
No,
no,
I did
Waitress.
I did Color Purple on tour.
Oh,
That was before
okay.
grad school. So my journey was, I went to undergrad, worked for 4 years, and
Gotcha.
then went back to school. Right?
Yeah.
So I graduated from Baldwin Wallace in 2014. I did Showboat at Lincoln Center. I did Wicked on tour for a year. I did The Color Purple on tour for a year. Then I went to grad school. Then I made my
naming
Broadway.
all these shows casually, and I like,
No. God is amazing. It's not about, it's just, I know it ain't me. You know what I mean? All of it was not me.
Wow.
And so because because when I got the call to do Showboat, I was sitting on the floor crying, saying I'm about to move home.
Wow.
Literally slid down onto the floor and said, I can't do this anymore. And then the phone rang. right? Wicked happened when I was like, what is happening right now? I do not know what to do with my life. And then I booked Wicked. And I'm talking about audition at 9 o'clock, got the call at 5 o'clock.
Wow.
Right?
God
And
can
then,
really do it.
you
God
see
can
what I'm
really
saying?
do it.
I
Yeah.
was supposed to go to grad school so I auditioned for grad school at the end of my Wicked contract. I was supposed to go straight to grad school after Wicked, booked Color Purple. We deferred for a year, and then I did Color Purple. Literally, so we were in DC. My last city with Color Purple was DC. We drove into Times Square. I went and dropped my bag and went to grad school orientation the same day as my last day of tour. Did grad school, was auditioning for things in March of 2020, but of course, the tour of Hadestown was supposed to go out fall of 2020, but then the pandemic happened, right? Did not book it when it came back around in fall of 2021, but I was in Waitress on Broadway. And then Black No More off Broadway. You know what I mean? Like it was supposed to be right now, because also they didn't go to Cleveland the first year of the tour. So I was also able to tour into my hometown and play Cleveland.
That's beautiful.
Right? And we were there 3 weeks because it was the first time that Hadestown had ever been to Cleveland.
That's beautiful.
So it's like, God knows what he's doing. Just hold on. Just hold on. You don't know better than him. So I really want to differentiate the rejection and the discouragement, because maybe it's not a no. Maybe it's just not right now. And you're taking the no as, oh, I'm bad, or I'm not talented, or maybe it's just not right now. Maybe I got something waiting on you on the back end, and I need you to just keep on pushing. My mother says all the time, hold on and see what the end gonna be. Hold on. And there's somebody who is about to quit, and it's just not right now. It's not a no. It's just not right now. Maybe you do need to go back to school and get a little bit more training. That was my story. I needed to go back to school. I needed to figure it out. I needed to get a little bit more training. I needed to cook a little longer. And then Broadway, you know what I'm saying? And then the thing started clicking. But there were some skills that I needed to work on and work through so that I would trust my own gifts, so that I would stop running from them like that 4-year-old little girl. You know what I mean? So yes. I really want to differentiate the discouragement and the rejection, because they are not the same. And I want us to stop getting discouraged by rejection and get encouraged by it and say, okay, Lord, if you're saying no here or not now with this one, you must got something brewing for me. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I need to loop and replay that entire section over and over and over again every day. I've never thought about it like that. And I started, intentionally performing and decided that I wanted to be a performer last year. I was in medical school. I was on the medical path. I was in Barbados at an international medical school. And I grew up singing and performing my entire life. Similarly, also did shows and plays and in middle school, high school, all that. I was a voice minor for a little bit in college because I still wanted to sing. I started taking lessons with teachers and I loved it. But I just could not put 2 and 2 together that I could actually do this as a career. And then of course there's so much around this career that it can and just this art form in general, whether it's a career or a creative outlet, that can be so negative. So the way that you just worded that, I wish I had heard that in that way before, but that's why it's so important that you say it now, because who knows who needed to hear that. Like you said, there is someone who's about to quit, who's about to reject themselves before anyone else can reject them.
Come on.
And you saying that right now, you just don't know what you've done for someone. So thank you so much for saying that. And I know that I wanted to talk about this because I know you have a voice studio and I want people to hear about it, because if you're just saying that, you're not even teaching us how to sing right now, but you're just, the way you're empowering me, the way you're empowering people who are listening to keep going and to keep growing and keep training. I'm sure your students are so blessed having you.
I hope so. I definitely feel like I have the gift of encouragement. I definitely have the gift of
Absolutely.
motivation and encouragement, and I definitely do incorporate that in my lessons. Like a lot of times what I am doing with my students is undoing the discouragement that they felt from the choir teacher at 15 or the music director at 12 or the voice teacher in college who did not know what to do with their instrument or who was discouraged by the fact that they were so good, so dogged them. I have so much, there's so much undoing that needs to be done in our subconscious around our talents. And what a blessing it is to be able to impart divine encouragement, right? It ain't me. Again, it's not me. You know what I mean? Like it is really me saying, I think I need to say this and I hope that I'm not overstepping, but this is what I'm feeling is going on. And there have been so many breakthroughs and tears and people being like, that's what I needed. I wish a voice teacher would have said this, like you just said, I wish a voice teacher would have said this to me 10 years ago. I probably would have pursued this professionally. And I'm like, there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with your voice. Maybe they just didn't have the skills to be able to work with you. So they played you or they downplayed you or they discouraged you because they were discouraged. And some people only know how to do what was given to them because there are so many under-equipped, undertrained, unprofessional voice teachers and voice coaches out here who settled for teaching. And I ain't settling for nothing. So it doesn't take away from me to give you my best. You know what I mean? And so I feel like that is a lot of what happens in my voice studio and acting studio as well. So yeah,
I love that.
think so I think that is a lot of what happens in my studio. My studio is called Queen Studios of Voice and Acting. If you go to queennyla.com and hit the voice lessons tab, all the information is there. My teaching philosophy, I am all about whole humans first and functional voices. I'm teaching you how to sing the way that your voice was created to sing, right? I'm not putting anything on you that is not already there. I'm also cultivating people to find their figurative voice. What do you want to do with this instrument? What kind of stories do you want to tell? What kind of performer do you want to be? What kind of person do you want to be? How can we incorporate that into the way in which you use your instrument? So yeah, I think that is what I stand on. I'm not, I just want to be what I didn't have. And also what I did have. I had a voice teacher in college, baby, who gave me everything. Shout out to Benjamin Zarnota. This white man, a whole white man, I was bringing him Kiera Sheard clips and Tasha Cobb clips and Patti LuPone clips and Bernadette Peter clips, saying
that.
Like, I want to make this sound. I want to, this right here, this line, this word that she said, I want to be able to put this sound in that song that we was working on last week. And this man would do the research with me and be like, okay, like, let's figure this out. And so there was a voice that he helped to cultivate that was then even more fortified by the shows that I did in between undergrad and grad school, and then also grad school. Dr. Ana Flavia Zuim, who is my voice teacher now, and Stephanie Rubino Scuderi, who is my coach now. You know what I mean? Like, these are people who I work with now. Kiera Wade, who is my classical coach. Like, people who I work with now who are like brilliant at even Kiera Studio. I'm gonna shout her out for my classical people out there. Esteem Voice Studio. Like, literally, these are the people who I work with who are on the track of the undoing, which is mostly what people need in their instruments. The undoing of bad habits, of bad teachers. Honestly, I'm just gonna say it. And of just the discouragement, again, that they coupled with rejection that is inhibiting them subconsciously from being able to do things that their voice is completely capable of. So yeah, I think it has been a lot of my studio. It has been a lot about the undoing, and that was a long way to get there, but yeah.
I love that. No, it's so good. I started teaching, doing beginner voice coaching last year because I started a online voice technique and musicianship professional certificate at Berkeley online.
Congratulations.
And, thank you. And I'm finishing it soon. And then I have a voice teacher who's obviously like more trained than I am, and she's doing that undoing for me and helping me. And it's like, what you're saying is so true. Like, having someone who can walk alongside you and not just like empower you and speak life into you, but then also like help you see the ways that you maybe like the mindsets that you've had, because singing is so in your mind. It's like it's so mental, and like help you like work through that and sort that out and say, okay, let's try this instead. And with my coaching, I'm not, I'm very honest about like I grew up singing, and I have like had, some like been able to help some friends like just start loving to sing. And for me, I really just want to help people start loving to sing again and start enjoying like singing their favorite songs again, and then like help them get to someone who can help them with more things that I'm not trained and equipped to help them with quite yet. But like I just love what you're doing. And this show is really for people who are wanting to start, who are wanting to start again, and maybe feel a little bit, have felt kind of discouraged or felt like they don't really know where to begin. So for you as a voice teacher who knows what it's like to help people undo old habits and old thoughts, and when it comes to singing and acting, do you have like maybe one or two things that you could give them? Like, we're going to wrap up soon, but just like one or two like practical tips of like, how do you actually get started? Like, how do I do this? Like, I'm hearing Nyla and I'm like, she's amazing. She's this incredible performer. She's so encouraging. I know that I shouldn't take rejection as discouragement. Okay, so like I'm ready to go. Where do I start? Like it can feel overwhelming. Like how do I start to sing? Maybe like one or two steps for how do I start singing, and then for acting, maybe one to two. Just simple things. Again, starting small. I just want to give people like a little something to start.
I think that I would encourage you to take out a pen and a piece of paper, old school, not your phone, notes, a pen and a piece of pen to paper. And I want you to write 10 times, 30 times, 100 times, however many times you need it. And even if you need to do it in the morning, every day, as soon as you wake up, I want you to write, I give myself permission to sing. I give myself permission to act. I give myself permission to be great. I give myself permission to perform. I give myself permission to be authentic. Whatever statement you need, whatever you needed them to say back in the day, say it to yourself. I give myself permission to write my book today. I give myself permission to be an author. I give myself permission to be an actress. I give myself permission to audition for my community theater. Even I could cry. Like I feel even myself in this moment opening. I give myself permission to be the greatest version. I give myself permission to be who God says I am. And then start writing, who does he say I am? I give myself permission to be an award-winning actress. I give myself permission to be a New York Times best-selling author. I give myself permission to be a great wife. I give myself permission to be a bomb mother. I give myself permission, you know what I mean? Like whatever you need to give yourself permission to be, write it down. Every day until you start believing that thing, until you start walking around like that person. So that's the first thing. Before you even sign up for a voice, because if I give myself permission to hit that note in that song and see what sound you would make, and of course do it in a safe place, schedule a voice lesson. But if you do it in front of that teacher, then maybe they can cultivate that sound and teach you how to do it safely and healthily and consistently. And even maybe that I give myself permission to be consistent in voice lessons. I give myself permission to earn enough money to be, I'm going to sign one more student, and that's going to be my voice lesson money. I'm going to do one more hour at work. I'm going to do overtime one time this week. And that money is going to be the money that I do to take that acting class. I give myself permission to find a way to make it happen. And so if somebody needed the permission, I'm giving it to you. Nyla Watson says, you have the permission to be who God says you are. You have the permission to be the greatest version of yourself, whatever that is. But I want you to take a 15 minutes, set a 15-minute timer on your phone and write that thing out. Who does God say I am? And who do I need to give myself the permission to become that I may have disqualified because of discouragement from 1997? Right? Because there's one thing that one person said back in the day that made you, that shut down that part of you that is hiding from perfect love. And that perfect love, when you let it into that place, it will flourish. So allow, again, we're going back to that allowance. Allow yourself, give yourself permission to be who you lost along the way. So that's the first step. And then I would say, Find a community of people and or a person. I don't even want you to get overwhelmed by more than one person. Find a person who you can tell, I'm giving myself permission, right? So call your best friend who ain't gonna laugh at you. Call the local voice studio and say, I'm giving myself permission to be great. I want to schedule a lesson. Or call your friend and say, I just want to read this to you and I need you to put your phone on mute and not respond. I just need a space to like voice this out loud. So those I would say are the 2 steps. Write it down and then call somebody and tell them what you are giving yourself the permission to be. Because then you are creating the space and then filling it with faith, right? And faith without works is dead. So you got to do something. So call somebody and say, I'm giving myself permission to be a best-selling author. And I need you to help me. I need you to help me. I need you to help me cultivate that space. I need you to call me and check on me. I need you to just ask me on Thursday, did I make the voice lesson appointment? I need you to give me a deadline so that I can show up for myself. I need you to push me, or I need you to be with me, or I need you to teach me, or I need, you know what I mean? Like if you are Estelle's friend, call her and say, I need you to teach me everything that you know about the voice. Even if it's just the beginning stuff, right? So write it down and then call somebody and tell them what you wrote down. And even if you need to just read it to them word for word, what you wrote, create the space and fill it with faith. And I'm talking about a faith walk, a faith action of calling someone and saying, this is who I want to be and this is how I want to do it. So yeah, those will be my 2 steps.
That's amazing. I think anyone and everyone listening to this wants to work with you like today. Because like, can you be my acting, live singing?
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Yeah. But what you said is so true, because it was the allowing part of the writing it down and then taking action, like doing something, physically picking up your phone. And I talk about this so much on the show. You have to take even just the smallest step of action. Like
I love that, honey. Small surrender.
Yes.
I'm gonna like
yes.
need to journal about that when we're done. Like, what is the small?
Yes.
And I know the small surrender for me today. I have a 2 to 3 is the hour that I'm going to just read my book today. So I'm committed to that. You have helped me even today in walking toward authorship and walking toward being who God says I am. You know what I'm saying? So I thank you.
And I can't wait to have you back on the show to talk about your book, because you're going to have to let us know about it. I'm serious, because that's amazing. I can't wait to see what it becomes. And yeah, so thank you so much you've given so much more than I could have ever expected. Like my day is brightened because of this conversation. So thank you so much for sharing. I always ask, my last question is always, if you could give like one word of advice to the aspiring singer, this person who's sitting here is like, wow, I'm going to take those steps of action that Nyla talked about. If there's just like one last thing that you want to make sure you absolutely let this person hear, the aspiring singer, actor, dancer, just wants to do something for fun, just has like maybe a 9 to 5 and just feels like they have let their artistry die a little bit. Or they actually want this as a career and they're like 17 years old and they're like, I don't know, like I just need something to encourage me. So if you had just like one last thing to share with them, what would you tell them?
2 things. Keep going. Don't stop. Right. And also support your local market. Like, they always say, serve who you want to be. So usher at your local theater or buy a ticket to your local show. Because I always say musical theater is an ecosystem, right? We need our community theaters just as much as we need our Broadway theaters.
Yes.
So if you are in, what you may consider no man's land or the middle of nowhere, there is theater happening. There is good art happening near you, right? So support your local theater. And even if you're afraid to audition, usher, serve your local theater. Get to know the local theater makers that are in your market. And it may give you the courage, once you know them and establish a relationship with them, to eventually audition. But I would definitely say serve where you want to go. So sign up to usher, sign up to be a ticket taker, sign up to sweep the theater, sign up to clean out the seats after people leave, sign up to do concessions, serve your local market first. And it may give you the courage later to be a part of it.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's really great advice. And I hope we all take it. Like, I need to take that more too. I want to see more live theater in my community. So thank you for reminding us of that. It's so true. Thank you so much for being here. Let everyone know where they can find you, connect with you, your voice and acting studio, because everyone needs to go check out your website and check out what you do and like find a way to work with you.
Yes, yes.
So let everyone know,
QueenNyla.com.
please. Yes.
Yeah, queennyla.com is my website. Everything is there. All my information is there. The Hadestown information is there. Where, if I'm coming to your local city, come see
Yes.
me and tell me that you found me from Estelle's podcast. I would love to, sign playbills and take pictures and,
Yes.
expand her fan base as well. So let me know where you found me. But yeah, queennyla.com is everywhere. And it's NYLA, like New York, Los Angeles. And on Instagram, I am brand new Nyla. I'm off Instagram for Lent, but I'll be back on there come April 9th. And I hope to see you guys, like, just tagging me and let me know that you all listen to the podcast. It's only 6 short weeks away, so still tag me and follow me. And yeah, and then come over to queennyla.com and shoot me a message. It comes straight to my personal email. So yeah, that's where you can find me.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. And I mean, what's your favorite? I just wanted to ask, because you're on tour, like, what's your favorite part of being in Hadestown right now? I'm such a huge fan, so I'm just curious because you
It's
talked
such a
about
beautiful
Hadestown.
story. It's such a beautiful story. I think I
Gorgeous.
am honored to be able to tell it every day. It never gets old. It's
Mm,
always beautiful. And I think I've never been a part of a more talented cast.
mm,
These people are giants in this industry and
mm.
are the most talented people I have ever worked with. You are required to do more than one thing if
Yeah.
you are a part of this cast. And so I am honored to be in the number. I'm probably the least talented person on the stage. Um, and so
Yeah.
they are beasts, man. They are
Yeah.
beasts. Like it is an honor to do art with them every single day. And it is definitely art that we are making. So yeah, I'm just
Yeah.
honored to be here.
That's beautiful. I'm so excited for you. I can't wait to see what you do next. But um I hope that, I don't know, like, are you gonna be on the East Coast a lot, like, for the
Yeah.
tour at Hadestown?
Yeah, we are on the East
Okay.
Coast until we go to Toronto in the summer.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
well, guys, let's find a way to support Nyla.
Listen,
Because
if
I
you
would
are
love to
even
see you
8 hour
in
drive away,
Hadestown.
it is worth it. I'm telling
Yeah,
you.
I'm sure.
It is such a beautiful show. Such
Yeah.
a beautiful show.
Yeah. Does it
So
inspire your faith a little bit? Like, to see, like, they're like, when I think about Hadestown, it can feel like dark at first. At first, I was like, oh, it's kind of dark, but like,
mhm.
knowing Greek mythology and everything, I was like, I'm curious about it. And then I saw like the beauty of like their relationship, and then like the pain of it, and like
Yeah.
so much happens. But I don't know. I feel like it kind of it inspires me, even though it's like there's some sad parts about it. I don't want to like give the I
Well,
don't know
no,
if
I mean, it's
everyone knows the
definitely a
story, but
tragedy, right?
yeah,
The show is definitely a tragedy. And
exactly.
so I think that for me, there is power in knowing what to do and what not to do. And I think
Mm,
that both are available in this show.
yes.
We watch Persephone and Hades fall back in love,
Yeah.
ancient love that transcends mistake and
Mm,
that transcends, um, love again, that undoing, love that undoes the hardness of the heart. I think
yeah.
is something that is available for us in Persephone and Hades' story. When he begins to sing again, and you have to come see it to see what I mean by that. We see like love can undo even the hardest of hearts,
Mm,
but that discouragement piece is big in this story as well.
yeah.
Allowing your mind to talk you out of promise um
Yeah.
is potent in this story as well. So yeah.
Mm. Oh my goodness. I think you just gave like the best advertisement for Hadestown. Now I want to see it. So thank you for sharing that. I just wanted to like add that in a little bit in case anyone
Yeah.
doesn't know what Hadestown is and why it's so incredible. I
Yeah.
think you did a great job just describing why we absolutely should see it. So thank you
It's
so
definitely
much,
a
Nyla.
necessary story.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you giving your time. Like, I mean, your time is so valuable. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you everyone for listening. Make sure you go, everything about Nyla and everything she said and reference will be in the show notes. So you absolutely have no excuse. You have to go find her and connect with her and work with her. Thank you so much. You're such a light and a gem, and I really appreciate you being here.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Creatively Performing Arts Podcast. I hope you feel encouraged, inspired, and truly impacted by today's episode. And if you can think of one person who would love this show, please share this episode with a friend. And if you wouldn't mind going to Apple Podcasts and leaving a review and rating, it would take 30 seconds and it would truly immensely help the show grow and reach more people who need to use their creative gifts as well. And finally, go to the Performing Arts community on Facebook and join this online free community for you to interact with and connect with other artists. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you so much, and I will talk to you later.